So hello guys, and welcome to another video. And no, Nintendo is not censoring the Paper Mario Thousand Year Door remake. So over the past few days, we've been getting some new details about the remake, and people have been dissecting some of the changes that they've been making to it, like including the art style, gameplay, music, and also the dialogue. So I think it's kind of to be expected that Nintendo changes the dialogue in the remakes, since a very recent example of this, Super Mario RPG, did change a few things. It did remove some of the pop culture references, like Bruce Lee, and there were a few other ones that I forgot, but they removed some of them. They also changed the enemy names as well. So going into the Thousand Year Door remake, I feel like it was very fair to expect some changes to the original game. So, I don't think it's worth getting worked up about all of these little changes at all. Especially because the one change that people are getting worked up about is a very minuscule detail. Like, it's almost like, I guess in the original game it was kind of funny, but it was really like a throwaway line that really didn't impact the story at all, and really doesn't change the experience that much now that they're like changing it in the remake. So basically this is the instance where you're in the Rogueport sewers, and the Goombas, there's like a few Goombas down there that catcall Goombella before you fight them. And they've changed that to have them like threaten Mario before like they fight you and everything, rather than hitting on Goombella. And that is what people are getting worked up about. Like, not any like major story changes, not any like major issues or anything, just a small minuscule thing when the remake really isn't changing that much else. They have changed a few other bits of dialogue here and there, like, and some of them are even like changed a bit more than that. But that is what people are focusing on. That is the one thing people are like pulling out of this and saying that Nintendo is censoring their games, they'll never pre-order another Nintendo game again. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And I feel like a lot of people just do this for attention. Like, they try to make such a nothing burger issue into like a big problem. Just to kind of like gauge a lot of like views and ad revenue and everything on this. Like, they wanted to get people angry about the new upcoming Nintendo game and everything. But I'm not going to get too deep into it. I hate talking about politics, and I'm not going to get into all of that stuff. I'm not going to open that can of worms, but I will go a little bit into why this change doesn't really matter that much. But yeah, like, a lot of people are saying that this just shows that this remake is making things like cater to a bit too much to people who are like sensitive and stuff like that. Like, I don't think it's doing that at all. I don't think they're like making this because they thought that the original felt too sensitive, because there are things in the remake that Nintendo probably would consider even more sensitive nowadays. Like the fact that there's like a noose in the middle of Rogueport, Flurry's design, the fact that like there's like gang violence in Rogueport, like when you first walk in there, when the Pianta Mafia is beating up like some of the Kras in the background. Like, they still kept in a lot of that like kind of like those dark aspects that the original game had. Like, it still has that like that whole vibe to it. Rogueport still feels basically the same way that it did in the original game. So removing that kind of like that nothing burger interaction with those three Goombas really doesn't change anything at all. It's basically like removing one of the bits of dialogue that the Toads have in the modern Paper Mario games. It's like removing that one line in Color Splash where that one Toad says, "My wife left me." It's like removing that. It doesn't do anything at all. Like, there is literally no issues with them removing that at all. And I feel like the one thing that people fail to realize about this remake is that the original English version of the game wasn't even accurate to the Japanese version of the original game. Some of the things that they took out of the original English version would be things that would be considered censorship by these same people nowadays. Like, things like Hooktail's weakness being completely changed. Or things like the chalk outline of the toad being removed, which that one is completely understandable. I can definitely understand that one from Nintendo, but like saying that this remake is censorship while not realizing that the original version of the game did make some changes, which were completely fine changes. They didn't really have any issue. It's still hypocritical to say that this remake is censoring it. It's like, it's just kind of crazy overall. And another thing that really makes this even more confusing about calling this remake censorship is that they're sticking closer to the Japanese version of the game with this remake. I mean, yeah, some of those dialogue changes aren't necessarily accurate to the Japanese version of the original game, which I do not care at all. Like a few nothing burger throwaway lines, that does not matter at all. Like, they are actually, with this remake, they're actually kind of making some changes to kind of put it a bit closer to the Japanese version of the original game. Like, Hooktail's weakness is now frogs instead of crickets, like the Japanese version, and there's also like a few other things as well. I think some of the there's like a few dialogue changes that makes it like slightly closer, but just overall, and then there's also like the design of tech as well that's a bit closer to the Japanese version. But yeah, it's just kind of weird and crazy that people are taking just a tiny little thing about this remake and just making it into such a huge deal. But yeah, anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more, and make sure to check out my Discord server and Twitter if you want to. Goodbye.